In my hand, I have a ball.
I just love the game.
Well, I've never been a millionaire, but I've lived like one all my life.
Now, I made the right decision going to teaching because, you know, the old saying, you know, those that can do, those that can't teach, you know.
I'm not going to go to university. I'm not one for the books. I had no academic passion at all, so to speak. So I decided it was going to be golf.
More words are written about golf than all other sports combined. They say that golf is the most overtaught and least learned game of any. They also say that if you had to teach sex the way they teach golf, the world would have run out of people. Well, fortunately, people who play golf want to keep improving. And if you want to improve, the best way is to take a golf lesson. In South Africa, we produced many great teachers. The best, David Leadbetter. Originally comes from Harare, moved down to South Africa, moved across the United States, and has taught many of the best golfers in the world, and he's taught millions of other people to play golf. We're here at Champions Gate in Orlando, Florida, and we are going to talk to the great David Leadbetter. David, in the 70s when you grew up in Harare, there were a whole group of really good young players. Just tell us about those times.
When I think back, Dale, I mean, it really is amazing for such a small country as Zimbabwe or Rhodesia as it was then. You know, we didn't have that many golf courses, didn't have that many golfers, and to think that you've got the likes of, you know, Nick Price, you've got Mark McNulty, you've got Dennis Watson, you've got Tony Johnson. Yeah, I mean, those, you know, the guys just, it's just amazing, really. And I'm still good friends with them now. I see Mark. In fact, Mark called me yesterday and said, hey, you've got to check my swing. And I haven't been hitting balls the last month or so because unfortunately his mother just passed away, and so he hasn't been playing much. So, you know, we'll get him on track there. And but, you know, to think that we've sort of been through the decades and where we've all ended up, I mean, tremendous. And it was just so interesting how such a small place produced so many good players. You know?
Now, at that time, Simon Hobday and Moose Gammon both tell me that as much as Nick Price and Mark and them were out there playing, you'd walk into the shop with an old golf magazine and you'd have a picture of somebody, Ben Hogan or something, at the top of his swing, and you'd say, and is he in the right position here? Shouldn't his wrist be in this position? You were mad on the golf swing even then.
Yeah, I was, and I think that affected me really from a playing standpoint because I became so damn technical, you know, and I only figured out after a few years, you know, how come my short game was so good? I didn't think about it, but yet the full swing, I get out there, I'd be working on a million things, and, you know, I was just really interested in it. I mean, I know Nick has his Ben Hogan book, which he still has from when he was a lighty, you know, it's all underlined and, you know, with yellow markers and so on. And the Ben Hogan book was the first book that I read. I mean, Modern Fundamentals, and it was an incredible book, really. And so you'd look at things, and I mean, I used to get these magazines, and I was fortunate. I mean, I turned professional when I was 17. I was an assistant at Chapman Golf Club, working for Kevin Quinn, who was a great guy to work for, and he helped me out. And yeah, I wanted to play. I mean, my game was, I was probably a, 4 handicap when I turned pro. I sort of went the Ian Poulter route, you know, sort of an assistant pro, and I just loved the business of golf. And so my game got a lot better, and I wanted to play. And you know, I think actually, you know, when I think about it, and I say I'm getting all these flashbacks now, but I think about it. I mean, I made the right decision going to teaching because, you know, the old saying, you know, those that can do, those that can't teach, you know. But so I had a little bit of, I played a few tournaments in South Africa. I remember actually one year I played at the PGA at Wanderers, and I just made the cut, and I was drawn to play with Bobby Locke. I mean, I was so excited, I couldn't wait. There I'm waiting on the 10th tee. Bobby doesn't show up. He had an accident the night before, had a car accident. So it's like, that was my, you know, I did get to play 9 holes with him at Observatory, so I was happy about that. But you know, getting back to my playing career, as short as it was, it's sort of Egyptian war hero length, I think, very short. But, I went to Fox Hills in London, and it was the same year Sandy Lyle got his card. Sandy was a big star. He was at the tour school there. And as it turned out, it didn't take a great score to qualify, but it turned out that I wasn't playing very well, but I made a 2 on a par 4 coming in, and I had to birdie the last hole at Fox Hills to get my card. And it was a par 5, one of the 2 courses they had there, and I hit a pitch shot about 8 foot short of the hole there, so knocked this in, got my card. That's as it turned out. I knew I was pretty close to, and I missed it, and c'est la vie. And so it was like it sort of made up my mind, and I actually got a club job in England for a short period of time. A guy who had connections with Southern Africa. He took cricket teams out there, and he was a farmer. He built this course. He said, "Hey, you do whatever you like here." And so at that time, I started a driving range there at the course, and which was unheard of in England at a private course. People had to pay for golf balls, and it was a brand new course. And the guy said, "Hey, do whatever you like." And so I was very lucky because I came out. I played in South Africa a couple of seasons, and I actually got to come to the States and met up with my old friend Phil Ritson, Phil I used to go down when I was living in Zim. I have to say Zim now. I used to go down there and visit Phil when he was at Killarney, and I used to get lessons from him. Whenever Phil would show up, he wasn't at the track. And he said, "Hey man, you could make it in this game." So and Phil really inspired me with my teaching, and I sort of met up with him when I came over here, and he was the golf director at Disney World. And he was working with a lot of players at that time. He was the man really back then. This is in the early '80s, and he had a lot of players. And so he really inspired me, and I was fortunate that my career sort of blossomed from there. I decided I was going to come to the States, and I stayed over here.
The criticism that's sometimes levelled at coaches, particularly. Probably the most famous of all is Lee Trevino, who always says that, show me somebody who can beat me and I'll take a lesson from him. Right. That is kind of unfair, especially to you and to Butch Harmon, are 2 guys who did play tournaments, who were good enough to play tournaments, and a lot of people don't realise that.
Yeah, we know. Look, the whole image of coaching and teaching has changed tremendously, and I think that indirectly, probably the work that I did with Nick Faldo sort of changed people's mindsets. And look, let's face it, every other sport, coaches have been very prevalent, and it's only probably recently in the last, say, 20 years or so, and less really, that if you look on tour now, on any tour, it's the exception that players don't have coaches. Back then, obviously when Lee was at his peak, it was an exception that they did. All right, Jack Nicklaus had Jack Grout. He'd sort of check with him, at the beginning of the season, they go over the fundamentals, and you go back to Bobby Jones. He had Stuart Maiden, and even Ben Hogan had a little bit of help here and there, and so Henry Pickard sort of helped Ben Hogan. So, but and I think that it's a little unfair. Look, our job basically. Yes, I've been very fortunate having taught a lot of great players through the years, as has Butch, obviously, but. Our goal really originally, I think, was to sort of help amateurs, never mind the pros. And the fact that there's so much money in the game now that the pros are looking at it from a standpoint of it, and starting at a young age, you got to look at it now. My son teaches in China, and he just got voted Teacher of the Year in China, and he's been over there for 4 years now. And Dale, you cannot imagine how good these kids swing the club. And I'm talking about kids. We're talking about 7, 8 years old, and these kids are out there 5, 6 hours a day. The Korean girls in particular have just really, hit the jackpot as far as golf is concerned. They're dominant in the world of golf. I'm not saying, as a group, okay, not maybe individually. They've got some star players, but as a group, the country, they've got over 45 players, I think, on the LPGA tour now. And so, but China is coming, I'm telling you. Now that golf is in the Olympics, And you're seeing these kids, and they're working at it. I mean, they have the mindset, the work ethic. You know, everything's go for gold. And you know, we've got a bunch of people over here right now from Beijing, the Beijing team. You know, they've come over with their coach and their manager and their workout specialists. I mean, it's incredible how the game of golf has really changed from that standpoint, because it is. It's a business now, especially at the top level.
Timing in life is so important. And, you know, you mentioned the fact that you missed an 8-foot putt, which could have got you a tour card, and that could have cost you a teaching career.
Absolutely.
But am I not right in saying that you had an opportunity to be the pro at a golf course on the South Coast, that you applied for the job? If you'd got that job, you might not be here today.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I applied for a lot of jobs, you know, but I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. In fact, you know, here's the story. I actually, when I went down to South Africa and I wanted to play, I actually taught for a while down at Hewlett's in Durban, and then I actually got a job. Actually, prior to that, let me backtrack. Prior to that, I actually worked for David. I've worked for who am I thinking of now at Houghton?
David Black.
David Black at Houghton. Okay. How could I forget him? I mean, we used to have to go in a collar and tie, and I was teaching there, and you know, it was an experience, you know. And I did end up playing the South African Open. I think one of the year that I was there. But anyhow, because I remember I played with Richter van Niekerk, and I remember that because he pitched it on the scorer's caravan the last time, because Richter didn't have maybe the greatest touch in the world. Hit it a long ways, but not the greatest touch. But
he'll come looking for you.
Yeah, he will. I'm sure he will. I mean, I remember he was a strong boy. I actually, believe it or not, I actually then got associated with Rhys Hughes, obviously well known at the Pro Shop, and you know, one of the great entrepreneurs in the game of golf in South Africa. And Rhys was the pro at Modderfontein, and he said, "Hey, listen, why don't you open at a place at John Foster Golf Club in Brakpan?" Okay, so now listen, I remember I just come down, I think from Salisbury or Harare, and John Foster Golf Club in the middle of winter is not the most pleasant of places. I mean, they're lovely people, you know, and because I just remember the golf course, it was like, you know, it was, you know, you didn't want to hit in the rough there because, you know, you could burn yourself there, you know, the smouldering coal. And I mean, it was quite an experience. So I had a little opportunity to be at different clubs, and then, you know, I really wanted to, because I'd already attended a couple of teaching seminars in the States a couple of years before that. So I really wanted to, you know, get back over here at some stage. And I went and you know, you could see, you know, the troubles in Zim. It probably would not have been the greatest, maybe the greatest decision if I'd stayed in that part of the world. I was born in England, so I could go back. I had a British passport. So I went back and I spent time there, and I spent maybe about 2 years, and during which time I tried to get my card, and then I got a club job over there. And then I came to the States. And really, I mean, this was, to me, you know, golf, this was the place for golf. I mean, and I talked Nick into it, I talked Dennis into it, and, you know, I mean, we had a great time back then. You know, Gavin Levinson was over here, and you know, Frosty. I mean, you know, they all hung out at my place. You know, I mean, it was like the YMCA there. You know, we had many tall girls who eventually I married one of them. You know, Kelly. So it was like one big happy family. You know, because I had a condominium right at the end of the range. You know, and I remember when Nick came over, you know, because we were sort of, you know, played a few practical jokes on one another, you know, and there's a famous story there with Nick, because Nick is a very, very heavy sleeper, okay, to say the least, you know, and, you know, he knocks the roof off a building when he snores, you know, and anyway, so this one night, I mean, the snoring was just keeping me up, because he was sleeping in the bed next to me. I said, no. So anyway, so I got this green Sharpie pen there, and I drew a nice moustache on here, and a beard, and fingernails, and, you know, and he just sort of kept doing this, you know, because he slept so heavily. So I was out on the tee teaching, I hear this scream, you know, what? You know, what the, you know, it's like, so then Nick comes out, he's like, you know, he just looks like, you know, sort of a General Custer there or something, you know, but he got me good, because he called me up and said, hey, listen, there's a phone call for you, and he put a big lob of butter in the phone, and when I went in there, and it was like, so anyway, we had fun there. I mean, we had guys like Jeff Hawkes. When Jeff came over here and played here, I think he probably played around your time, you know, when you played over here, and so, you know, so it was a good Southern African connection, you know, and...
But what's really neat is that those guys that you were talking about earlier, you know, Nick, Mark McNulty, Dennis Watson, are still great friends of yours today. And we're talking, 30, 35 years later.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, we've been good friends all along, and it's tremendous, golf's changed a lot. Let's face it, it's very much business. It's a business now, and I mean, you see these young guys. I mean, it's the same all over the world. When you've got this amount of money in the game, I mean, you look at the money, that Rory's just earning now, with his company, and it's incredible, really, where the game has come from and where it is right now. It's just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, you actually sort of, when you think in terms of, what Jack Nicklaus did in the game, and Tiger earned more in 1 year than he earned in his whole career. I mean, it seems nutty.